What's up, guys? I don't know if y'all can hear me, but that's why I'm speaking loudly. So, in this what if, just like whoever made this one, and I'm sorry if I'm taking your thumbnail or anything, I apologize. And I tell people to go check you out, okay? So check out whoever made this other one. I have not watched it, I have not heard of it before. I couldn't find fan art of all three of them, so here we go. What if Tarble and Broly were sent to Earth with Goku? Now, I only see a few ways of making this one happen. The way I'm thinking is that Paragus has two sons, Brock and Coley. Brock is Super Broly. Brock is Super Broly. Coley is Z Broly. Okay? Okay. So, I'm going to say that by some miracle, Tarble remembered his own name. And Z Broly didn't remember any name. But Tarble remembered Z Broly's name, Coley. Couldn't remember Kakarot, too long for him. But he did remember Coley. So, going with this, this is how we're making the what if. So, this version, knowing that their three sons were together, their three oldest boys, that were all around the same age. All three of them are together. There's the super elite, the elite, and the low class. They all meet up together. Fathers, when Bardock says, "Hey, I think Frieza's going to kill us," in this version, Paragus does not survive. But he died fucking warrior. Because in this version, but he didn't go up there and start saying, it's enough, we're done with being your servants. No, he didn't say shit. In this version, he said, "I can't meet up with you today, I am sorry." But then, Frieza didn't give a shit. So he straight up said, "Alright, launched the exact same attack he did, killed Bardock the same way. Only in this version, he had two very big problems. I'm going to say all three of them had power level around 10,000. Bardock was 10,000 exactly. So was there's a little bit of a difference. King Vegeta's wallet was 10,250. He knew that these three were like his best friends from childhood to now, because they all loved to fight. They would always get into fights with people. The king would use his super elite status to provoke people into acting like they could beat him in groups, while he would use his superior strength to whoop their ass. Paragus would just taunt them to get one of them at him and just whoop his ass. And then Bardock would just straight up beat the shit out of all of the people who wanted to talk shit. They all met one day and beat the shit out of each other, and that's how they became friends. Back to the what if. So like I was saying, their plan in this version was to send all three kids together. While in this version, they actually sent them with a huge fucking cooked steak. Because they can all eat this, they're all toddlers in this version. Nobody's matured. Tarble is actually the most matured, and Z Broly is the middle. Obviously. And it's also, though Z Broly is technically the strongest, with 20,000 power level, the king never thought that this would be like a problem, since, hell, his son would obviously have power level far higher than this. Besides, his other son was a legendary Super Saiyan and shit, so he didn't worry. He thought his sons would be like super fucking monsters. But apparently not. Back to the what if. So we're getting back to what if, where we have a huge difference in the canon. Gohan finds them, and all three of them are injured because they fell out when they want to push against the glass. About 20 feet off the ground, but still. Now, while they do all have their full strength, Goku always wants to catch up, and so does Tarble. So that Z-Broly, even though he's the middle of the group, is the most physically strong out of all of them. Tarble was the smartest. Goku was the best at movement speed and getting out of the way. While Broly was the best at just beating the shit out of people. So you got strategy, attack, and brute fucking force. That was their three abilities. Now, they live basically as three brothers, like triplets, since they're all about the same age. Now, I'm gonna say that, like, there's a 2-month difference between, like, Goku and Broly, same age. Tarble is 2 months older than them. That's it. That's the big difference between all of them. As they're growing up, they see how beefy Broly starts getting as a kid. And at one point, he gets pissed off. And while all of them go into it, while it took both of them going in Ozaru, and that's why I wound up calming him down. Both his brothers went berserk. His hair was golden. He went berserk. And they all wound up fighting. All of them were injured after this, though. Luckily for them, Grandpa Gohan got a chance. He split it in half and threw it to Goku and Tarble. And a shitload of his Zenkai boosts since they were so fucking close to death. But Broly had just calmed down. He wasn't close to death at all. He was completely fucking fine, if not perfect. So, yeah, he didn't feel good about what happened, and he knows the truth. And he tells them the honest truth. Tarble tells them that he's actually Prince of the Saiyans. Not the Crown Prince, but he's still a fucking Prince. Now, Vegeta is the Crown Prince. Their older brothers are all there. And that's why, in 20 years, if things really did go bad, if Frieza did destroy the planet, their older brothers would come and get them. That was the plan that their parents agreed upon. That was the plan that they were going with. Hell, that was the idea that they had. Now, I'm going to say that Frieza actually remembered the three of them. King Vegeta, because he left a strong impression. Bardock, because he punched the shit out of Zarbon and Dodoria, and then came and kicked Frieza straight in the fucking jaw. Paragus, because he took a ship and full speed that bitch and just full force at that motherfucker and charged and blew the ship up in Frieza's face before the attack was launched. They didn't have an army that would follow them, since they all thought that the king was going mad and those three were just going crazy. Here's where the good shit happens. So over the course of Dragon Ball, Bulma finds that she's a ripped Broly who's just shorter than her by about a head and shoulders. She sees a beefed up, like what looks like Gohan, you know, whenever he was Teen Gohan. She sees what looks like that to be Goku, and she sees a fucking unit, Tarble. He looks bigger. But he's already reached max height. Tarble ain't growing at all. That's what sucks for Tarble. And right now, he's the tallest of the group. This is where the big problems would start to arise. They decided to go with her. And even though Tarble loved to think he was that big guy, he was that tough motherfucker, this is when the shit goes down. So the events of Dragon Ball are just washed away. Like, straight up, anyone who attacks them gets their just straight up pimp slap, since all their power levels are already at like 2,000. Really, they're all kind of tied with Broly currently, since they grew up together and they live as like fighting brothers. And every day they fight and spar and train. When they come across Roshi, that shit still happens. Goku is a fan of the Kamehameha. Tarble already knew how to do a blast, but got it refined when he was on Earth. Wound up refining that motherfucker. So, yeah. And it was called the Gallic Gun, which is just something that he learned from his older brother before they split up. And Broly has one blast that he had to refine too. It's called the mouth beam. It's just basically where he shoots what is basically the same thing as a Gala gun or Kamehameha through his mouth. And this is his big attack. It's his big shit. So he decides to just keep his. Though they all learned each other's attacks, they all made their decision on which they liked the best. It was their own. Broly liked mouth beam most because it allowed him to keep punching while he spit it out. Tarble liked the Gala gun best because it would allow him to keep seeing his opponent and keep his eyes planted on them. Goku liked Kamehameha the best because it just seemed to work for him better than either of the other attacks. This is where the big thing would happen. And if you're wondering, Goku sadly did hit his head this day. When he was younger, still hit his head. Shit went normal. But different in a way. Because in this version, shit ain't sweet. Since they see Piccolo, they whoop his ass. Like, it is such a bad ass whooping that not a person was willing to intervene on that one. Although, Piccolo still shot the egg, and Broly actually said, "Let it go. It's not a threat." A few years pass. I'll grant you that one. A few years do pass. Goku still ends up being the strongest there. Like, he becomes the strongest. Before it was always Broly. Broly won before Goku, and Tarble beat him one time, getting it the first time. Second time was with, Broly got it. He kept that title, thinking he was all that tough shit. Although Goku wasn't that much beneath him in physical strength, so shit wasn't very sweet for him, since right after they wind up having the strength to where they wind up being even. They trained with Kami as a trio, and they got their strength to the peak. Like, they all had 20,000 power levels. But on the exact other hand, on the side where with the older brothers, they won't. Raditz hated being the weakest. Anytime someone called him weak, he was pissed off. So, he trains every day. After a week full of just training, Raditz, after being injured and healed, caught up with them. The strongest of which being Vegeta at 18,000, Broly at 17,000, and Raditz at 16,000. While each of them have 20,000 power levels, the younger brothers at least, they know that their strategies aren't all that good. And this is all when they were still the kids. And Goku really didn't increase his power level. I'm going to say 20,000 was right when Raditz would get there. Raditz's power level, however, still had years to grow. About 3 of them left. Now, Goku still married Bulma. All that shit would happen. Not a big deal. But, Goku would still marry Chi-Chi. Not a big deal. Shit happens. But, here's where the big thinker happens. When Gohan is born, he's a whole different guy. And then you have Launch, who I'm going to say winds up marrying, actually, Launch, I don't know who to give that one to. I'll think about it. Since Launch really does actually kind of likes Broly. And Tarble winds up getting with Bulma's older sister. Sorry, Jacko. So yeah, that shit happens. They all wind up having a kid the same age. There's Gohan. There's Vegeta, which was the name that Tarble gave to his son. And Brock and Broly, which is the name given to Kohli's son. That was the names each of them gave the choice out to. Alright, so I did another mic check, seeing if it works. Thinking it'll be fine, let it go, yeah. Anyway, like I was saying, shit ain't really that sweet for them. Since this is when they all have their sons. And while, yes, the one by the name of Vegeta, although he actually didn't know what to go with, since he wasn't really planning on going with Well, he is Vegeta, so I guess that makes sense. Like, this is Tarble's kid named Vegeta. That's kind of like an homage to his father and brother. You know, just as a thing, like, he respected them a shitload, so he decided to name his son after them. That's his fucking plan. Brock and Z Broly, which is going to be called Coley from this point forward, just decided to name his son what his and his older brother's name would be together. Goku just decided to give homage to the man who raised them, Grandpa Gohan, by naming his son Gohan. That was the decisions. While, here's where the big difference happens. In this version, when Raditz gets there, he isn't planning on, whooping some ass and all that. Because he's seen much higher in the ranks, and even being called the third strongest Saiyan, although he didn't know that his younger brother was so much stronger, because, his power level in this version is actually 25,000, which is 2.5 times what his father's was. Yeah. Vegeta's is 30,000. Lucky for him. And Broly's, Super Broly's is like 27,500. 27,500. That's his power level. That's the idea. That's the differences in their strength to others. Now, thing is, when their power levels are all this fucking high, you have to acknowledge a few different things. One, if these motherfuckers go to whoop some ass, they whooping that ass. That's how shit working. Shit ain't sweet. So yeah, I'm sorry if y'all have heard me say that a few times and y'all don't like it, but still, it's facts. So, while Broly isn't the strongest motherfucker, he ain't weak. And when the first thing that happens is he speed blitzes all three of them and goes to steal Gohan, because all of them have their power levels lowered to 10,000. And this was when the big thing happens, because Piccolo's actually trained to fight them at full force and wears his weighted gear all the time. His power level seems like it's 10,000 as well. This is where the big boy difference happens. Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, all of them have trained to the point where they can keep up with Goku, Vegeta, and, Broly. I mean, Goku, Tarble, and Coley. Their plans never go as often as good as they want. Well, Goku and Krillin became best friends. Tien and Coley became best friends. Yamcha and Tarble became best friends. Like, it was kind of odd. But it makes a little bit of sense. They each kind of complement each other's abilities. There's two, most differences, I guess. Well, anyway, back to the what if. So, our big boys, as I'm calling them, are not as happy as you'd expect. They pissed. Because, while Raditz did go there to negotiate originally, he felt their power levels being weak, so he decided, fuck it, they're weaker than me. I'll fuck with them a little bit. He grabbed all three of the kids and flew off at Mach 30. Not really Mach 30, but he flew fast as shit. He flew as fast as he could back to his pod, gave them a threat, and he'd have his power level fully raised. He'd be fully letting off his full force so that they could find his ass. They found his ass. They weren't going to kill anybody, but they was about to whoop all that ass. They get there and drop their gear. And he's like, what's that going to make oh, shit. Now, fun fact, there are 3 legends. The Super Saiyan God, and Legendary Super Saiyan. In this version, there are all 3 of those legends. Said to happen every 10,000 years, 100,000 years, and every almost million, around every million years for each of those individually, having their own different time thing. the Saiyans knew of these fucking things, and they thought, well, these boys make the most sense. Because, I mean, yeah. And it was always taught that the strongest of the forms was the God form, second was Berserk, and then weakest would be, regular Super Saiyan. Now, it was always thought that the royal family got the Super Saiyan because Berserk Super Saiyan went to the second weakest, and the weakest one got that whole bullshit. So yeah, it was kind of like always a middle thing for the legendary Super Saiyan. Now, here's where the thing would happen. All of them would unlock their power and go into their forms. Because Goku already has Super Saiyan God, tarble already has Super Saiyan, and Broly already has legendary Super Saiyan. Now, thing is, with the differences in strength, it's a whole different fight. Because all their power levels are just about the same, despite their very, very different forms. Well, tarble does only have Super Saiyan. He's trained it to the point where he can somewhat go into the different versions of it. He's got Super Saiyan all the way going up into grade 3. Hell, it's mastered so he can go into grade 4. And when he wants to, he calls it grade 5. Which isn't Super Saiyan 2. It's just Super Saiyan minusing all his speed to give him one big-ass attack. Now, this is one attack that makes even Broly's attacks look small. Goku's is all about being fast as shit. Every strike beats the ass. But, here's where the difference happens. This is when you hear, ha 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 ha. You really think, for a moment, that those forms would be surprising? We hoped our little brothers would have the forms as well. Though Nappa did say y'all would never get him, but I was more hopeful. As he goes into his own God form, noting, oh shit, he can do that too. This is where Vegeta would actually call him right after the fight. This is where we have a beaten to hell version of Raditz, an exhausted Goku, Kohli, and tarble. As you hear, ha, they whooped your ass off the other line from the prince. We'll be there in 1 year to fix your mistake. Since he was saying, train well. When we get there, we're beating the shit out of all of you. Because Vegeta really didn't see his brother as that much of a threat. Hearing that his power levels at max was maybe at 20,000, untransformed. Vegeta happens into Super Saiyan. Now, Frieza in this version actually has his golden form already. And he calls it his strongest form. And if you're wondering how Goku got Super Saiyan God and how did Raditz, it's all because, like, their ancestor gave it to him. Basically like, oh, you need this shit, motherfucker. So 2 of his ancestors went down from above, granting Goku the power to go into it. Or, if you want to, you can just say that the kids were willing to give their power into Goku as well. Like, one day, they all donated power to each other, and it just happened that Goku got 5 of their power, only 4 of them donated power, 5 of them donated power to him, and that's what gave him his abilities. All 4 of them donated their power to him one time. For him to throw, like, a fight against, say, Piccolo. Fuck it, that's what we're going with. And that's what gave Goku the God form. The other 2 just unlocked it after time. Now, here's where the same thing would kind of have to happen for... I'm going to say that there was just a bigger team, and a few of them were more pure-hearted, so it was able to be done. That's the only thing I'm making happen. Nappa has no super form, and he really doesn't see a need for them. He says you only need those if you're weak. This is when he gets reminded, you're the weakest among us. And Vegeta said, so, I only have power up because I'm weak, huh? Scaring the shit out of Nappa, who said, no sir, you're on thin ice, Nappa. Say it again and I'll let Broly here take you down. And Super Broly still has the same exact cloth, because he took over the same planet that he was originally doomed to deal with his whole life in canon. And I'm going to say he was only there because, like, it was an order from Frieza to take it over because it was thought to be, you know, a kill the Saiyans planet. That was originally the plan, but when they saw him come back with one ear of those things draped over his waist, and a very, very pissed off Broly, who was willing to put hands on Vegeta, Frieza, hell, Raditz. He was beating Frieza's ass until Vegeta and Raditz pulled him off, saying, "Calm down, Brock." As Super Broly will now be known as Brock from this point forward. Brock was honestly whooping ass. Only reason they pulled him off was because King Cold was there. And King Cold has a golden form. Cooler was there. Cooler has a golden and a beefed up form. And the only reason they really had to pull him off is because it was said, they were told if they didn't get him under control, they would have killed him. This is when Vegeta actually said, this is when Frieza would actually say, "No, you will not." "What do you mean, my son?" said King Cold. "Simple. I deserved that one for what I said. You're not a weak, primitive boy. You're a powerhouse. And I give you my respect, Brock. Have him put up to the same league. The Saiyans are the trio of Saiyans are the only ones to be given this high of an honor. The disobey rule. Usually that would mean, usually it is whoever disobeys Frieza dies. But in this version, each of them get one time where they can disobey Frieza. That's it. And they got this because they took on a task that even Frieza didn't want to have to fucking do. And that was deal with that planet. Broly did most of the work, and they all went on Zaru because the moon was basically out there most of the time they were there. But Ba, who was actually seen as they actually took a few of those creatures in as pets, one with one ear called Ba, which was the name that was given by Broly, was called basically their attack hound. They would let this thing loose on a planet. Usually it would do more work than most squads, but they would take this thing out on a planet with the three of them for more of a big fight. There's only been 3 planets where this has ever been needed. And all 3 of those planets were so powerful creatures that even Frieza, King Cold, and Cooler all got there for helping them. Because it was seen as they would need that kind of help. It was that big of planets to deal with. And they were all even in their forms, the strongest ones they had. Ba was in his full power. Ba was going beast mode on them fuckers. But here's where the sad part happens. Whenever they get there after the year, you know, Goku even wanted to train with King Kai. Learn the whole truth through the Dragon Balls about the Saiyans, because it took a little over a year to get there. And even learned his ability known as the ability of ass-whooping plot armor, which is what he got when he was fighting his older brother, who had a better mastery over God form. This is when Goku would actually explain any one of them could get God form. They all had it. Not everyone could get Berserk, but anyone could get regular Super Saiyan except for Kohli. They saw it as basically his Berserk form was his Super Saiyan form, and the God form was just a beast mode that they just happened to be able to unlock after a few times. Raditz saw it as the same shit, saying, there is a form we can go into though. It's called, I just guess we call it Blue, but we really don't go into it that often unless it's absolutely needed. There's Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3, which is where you see Gohan, who's in 2, which I'm going to say Gohan actually came up with 2 on his own. Like, he unlocked Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 instantly when he was a little kid. So yeah, the entirety of this plotline goes down the fucking shitter. So, here's where the big difference happens. Vegeta gets there, he gets his ass whooped. They go to Namek, they whoop Frieza's ass. Goku didn't struggle to go into Super Saiyan, but what he did wind up going into was called Super Saiyan Berserk 3. It's where he actually Super Saiyan Blue 3, which is what he winds up winds up going into against Frieza and whoops his ass and kills him. Well, almost kills him. He has enough remorse. Broly, who basically who collapsed onto that old planet. I mean, Coley, who collapsed that old planet. Brock, who collapsed to a different old planet. All of them kind of gathered together to fight. They all powered up their full force, and when it was wished for them all to be kind of granted to get back to Earth about a few months later, they were. Admittedly, Brock and Coley were in way worse shape than Goku. And yeah, sad to say, but they were. Goku was fucking fantastic. He was on Yard Right, he was good. The 2 planets they were sent on were led by people who wanted the Saiyans fucking dead. But they still wound up winning. Anyway, they really didn't unlock any special abilities there. But back to the what if. As we get Goku back to his old, bullshit power-ups, whenever they have to deal with Cell is completely nothing in the future timeline since, well, future timeline him is just from a normal timeline. And they see all the exact differences, and Trunks actually surprised as shit that so many differences have occurred in this timeline. And then said something unexpected. Well, if this is the timeline difference, I guess it's kind of odd. But whatever. Something had to have happened, a difference in the timeline. Whatever. Anyway, this will happen, and that'll happen, and bye. After giving the medicine. And he knew Vegeta. He actually recognized Vegeta as the one who was supposed to be his father, and all that shit happened. Back to what if. Though Gohan winds up being the one to defeat Cell. While he was a joke, Gohan was the one who wound up saying, "I'll handle this," and killed him. In a Super Saiyan Blue 3. Now, this is on the level of Super at this point already. And Beerus hasn't woken up yet, but Whis understands what the fuck's going on. He checks in on the motherfuckers every few days, as he calls it his fun time. Since he just sits there, watches they funny asses, beating the shit out of whatever threat would occur. Here's where the big difference would occur, though. While Gohan is a beast, and kept training, so were the other two of the boys. Goten would still be born. Trunks would still be born. And in this version, surprisingly enough, that was it. I would want to give them a second kid. I wouldn't mind that, but I'm deciding not to. Now, at this point, the other Saiyans have found women. Not Nappa. Nappa decided to go back to the stars, do his shit. But, surprisingly enough, Brock and Coley both found women. Launch in this version actually has she knows someone. A close friend who wound up never showing up, but was actually her partner in crime. She was a very mean lady, but still. She was very strong-willed, and this is where Brock would actually introduce himself, and they would wind up getting together, having a kid. And they would name him Paragus, in honor of, the father. In honor of the kid's grandfather. And this is where the big boy difference happens, since I'm going to say Chi-Chi knew someone from when she was little, a close friend who was a girl. Wound up deciding that was kind of like an older sister figure to her, who wound up getting with, our favorite long-haired Saiyan, Raditz. And that happens. That's all. Now, here's where the big boy differences happen. With all these more kids running around, when Beerus gets there, because he wanted to meet the Super Saiyan God, and whenever he talked to Whis about it, Whis said, yes, there's multiple gods. Beerus spitting out all the water he was drinking, saying, What do you mean, multiple gods? Oh, the ones with the Super Saiyan God power. As he pointed to Earth, saying, all of them live here. The strongest of which is here. And there's this one called Berserker. The Berserker, and he's here on Earth. A few of them have that power. What? Yes, 4 exactly. 4 of them have God form as their normal states at this point. 5 of them technically, since this is another kid. Holy hell. And the plain Super Saiyan transformation 1 through 3 is in possession of 4 as well. Holy crap. Oh, but don't be mistaken, they all have God form too. What? I must get to Earth. This is where Beerus gets there, and he ain't as cocky as he was in canon. Well, he didn't go to Earth first. He actually went to King Kai's planet just to get his shit folded by Goku. Like, it was an even fucking fight, though. Beerus was even in his somewhat, like, fling-blings of Ultra Instinct. He had to use that against Goku to win. And even then, that wasn't an easy win. It was a fucking pain in his ass. Even at one point or two, Goku showing that he had the ability to go into Ultra Instinct and goes into the Omen form. Beerus pissed off about this and said, boy, you just almost unlocked Ultra Instinct. Oh, is that cool? It's fucking bullshit. I'm still trying to unlock that shit after millions of years. Okay, that sucks. Whatever. As he actually wound up winning by putting Goku in a Hakai. Goku, and it is seen in Super, if you're stronger than the person casting the Hakai on you, you'll survive. Like, if you're stronger than the Hakai's energy to kill, you'll be there. You'll survive, you just have to push it off you. It still has to destroy something, though. If you put a ball of ki to it, it'll destroy the ball of ki instead. But if you do a beam attack, it'll destroy everything up to the beam, all the way up to you as well. If you're strong enough, it won't affect you, but it'll still hurt like a bitch. So that's why you make a small ball of ki and throw it. Kind of like a baseball kind of thing. So yeah, that still wound up happening. He gets there and actually winds up slapping Bulma. This is where you hear Vegeta yell, "My Bulma!" And everyone just turns their head. They were not expecting this. And they see Vegeta, of all people, going into the super form that he has that no one fucks with. And Gohan even has the ultimate form once they had to deal with Boo. And that ultimate form is kind of like his base form. To him, like, he trains to where that point is just base. He's technically the strongest there, but they don't really need to. Now, this is where the big boy fights happen. Beerus gets his ass whooped. All the way throughout that fucking encounter. At the end of it, he's coughing out blood and yelling, "Whis, fucking help me!" And Whis says, alright, cracking his own neck and saying, "Enough!" Slapping his staff to the ground, going in Ultra Instinct, and sending everyone fucking flying. When Goku arrives, seeing if they would need any help, highly doubting they would, he sees Whis doing his damnedest to deal with 2 Berserk Saiyans, and the kids that wound up actually fusing and going Berserk. Noting he's struggling at a fucking huge rate. But he isn't exhausted, he isn't done. No one is. At the end of the fight, Beerus admits he got his ass whooped. It takes him going 100% of strength to keep up with them. This is when Beerus said, "Excuse me, Whis. Do me a favor." "What is it?" "Make that pyramid of power." "Alright, my lord." Making it, and for 2 days, Beerus was gone in there. And if y'all don't know, because of the Ultra Vegito thing, I'm going to say 1 day outside is 2 years inside the Pyramid of Power. Beerus being gone for 4 years, he did nothing but training with Whis at full strength. Unlocking Ultra Instinct, getting his Ultra Ego to its best point, and Whis even deciding to go with a little bit of Ultra Ego into his own power to get as strong as possible. Even though he huffed and puffed a little bit, he knew he was the strongest being around. Like, they knew they were strong enough to easily handle any of the other gods. Since they had nothing to do with training. After this point, they walk out and go, and this is when this is when Whis would remark, I think I may be stronger than my siblings. Not my father, but my siblings, maybe. And Beerus even said, I might be the strongest god of destruction at this point. Maybe the strongest throughout history. They went over to the Grand Priest and Zeno and said, could we get this registered? The strongest angel, the strongest god of destruction. These were the titles given to them, hearing that they were actually that much more powerful than they were before. It was fine. They decided to do it. But, being that they had the strongest universe, the Universe 6 versus Saiyan battle doesn't even go anywhere near like it was in canon. They decided to take the same group, but in this version they also include Brock. And they wound up actually kicking Manaka out, saying, Manaka, you just get your ass whooped. Trust me. Beerus says this and says, Manaka actually said, alright, that's fine. I don't need to really be there. I don't want to get my ass whooped. This is where Hit says, oh, this ain't even going to be, oh shit, they're powerful. Only people to really be there was, well, Vegeta, Goku, you know. Really everyone got there, but really everyone was there, but not everyone was like fighting. Those were the only. And while the fights don't even go anywhere near like there was in canon, the first person to go there is Goku. He whooped every ass, called Frost for cheating, kicked him in the face, and started beating his ass. That basically happens. At the end, he won with very little difficulty except for Hit. Hit went against him, and this is where, surprisingly enough, Champa calls bullshit. Since they did wind up actually making that same barrier to try trapping Goku. Goku using his full force and blasting everyone away. Here's where the sad part would happen. When Beerus actually suggested, would have God of Destruction like to chat with the mortal like to challenge the God of Destruction, Goku actually said, hell yeah! This is when Zeno would appear saying, that would be interesting to see. Oh shit, everyone bowed except for, you know, Team Universe 7. Listening to Beerus say bow, Broly thinking, I bow to no one. Well, Brock thinking, I bow to no one. Same for Coley, but this is when the kids even said, come on, be respectful. Except for Goku's kids. Gohan bowed, Goten even bowed, Goku didn't. He was really nice, walked up, both the guards got in his face, and Goku actually at full power, walks right by them. Would have, if they both weren't about to swing him right in the jaw. This is where you hear enough, pushing the guards aside. Zeno actually winds up becoming good friends with Goku. And this is when he said, I would like you to meet my son, Goten. Goten, come here. Goten stopped bowing and actually ran up saying, hello. And they actually wound up playing together and having fun. All the kids wound up playing together, except for, you know, the older ones. Like Trunks and Goten, they were playing. Hell, even the older ones, like, and even Pan is still a thing. So Pan is a baby, and she's playing with, you know, Zeno and all that, and she winds up spitting on him accidentally. Thinking this would piss off Zeno, the Grand Priest was shitting himself. Since it pissed off Zeno, it was enough for even him to get his ass whooped. So he said, oh, no. And this is when Zeno would wipe it off, saying, it's okay. And they went back to playing. They kept playing and playing and playing and playing, until even Zeno was exhausted and said, I'm gonna go play. And this is when Goku actually still suggested the universe, you know, tournament. The tournament of power. Now this is when they said, okay, it'll happen, we'll tell you. And this is when Goku said, could you give us 72 hours of warning so we can train a little bit and tell the others to train as well? Sure, and this is when Beerus actually said, you do realize Universe 6 and 7 are some strong universes, right? What do you mean? Well, I mean, I'd say you have the strongest mortal. We have the strongest mortals, as you already have Ultra Instinct. The final form is the property of Gohan. Broly wields the form of Beast, which is basically a combination between Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego, and kind of like a mashup between the two. Vegeta still has Ultra Ego and all that shit. And this is when I said all of them have it. They've all basically unlocked those forms. This is where, surprisingly enough, Zeno would say, if you're all that strong, it won't be a fair fight. This is when Whis would interject saying, isn't it true there's a universe where the mortal is stronger than the god? Yes, well, this is a universe with 6 mortals that are stronger than the gods. And this is when Gohan said, 7. Alright, 7 mortals stronger than the gods. And this is when this is when the other 2 would step in saying, excuse you. Oh, I'm sorry, sons. Since they were the same age as Gohan, they were about the same strength, too, saying, alright, my mistake. 9 stronger than the gods. As this is when you hear, wait a minute, what? There's 9 stronger than the gods. And this is when Beerus saying, and I'm the strongest god of destruction, and they're all more powerful than I am, so it'd be fun as fuck. And the exhibition matches, that when a shit is funny, since no one could fucking step to them, but still. The whole thing was just a fucking joke at this point. Except for Jiren. Jiren thought he was, he knew he was the strongest around for what he thought. This is when Belmont was told, hey, you know how one of your people is stronger than you? Well, you know Beerus being now the strongest god of destruction since, his power is now the highest among everyone, even combining his Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct form? Uh-huh. Well, he's got 9 mortals that are stronger than him. Say what now? Yes. And there's even 1 mortal that's close to being at the same strength as him. Apparently, we don't really know who he is, though. It's Android 17, obviously. So the tournament power still happens. In this version, basically, they just only have the Saiyans and then just Android 17. He's like, why am I even here? I'm the weakest one out of everyone. This is when he points at Goten and Trunks saying, when he talks about Goten and Trunks saying, why don't you just send one of them? Well, surprisingly enough, you're actually stronger than they are. Really. Whatever. This is when you hear, no, 17, you're not going in. What? Really? Sweet. As Piccolo ended up going in, and he actually has Ultra Instinct, Ultra Ego, Kaioken, all that shit. He even has God Ki. That's called the God of Namekians. As his strength is so bullshit as high as well, he's actually on the same level of Beerus. Beerus saying, so, there's 10 stronger than the God of Destruction in my universe? No. What do you mean? Only, pointing, saying, 9. And 1 right barely weaker than the God of Destruction. Granted, if I had 2 months of training, I could probably be stronger, but I don't have that right now. And this is when the tournament was announced. They got 72 hours of training. Every other universe hearing that there's how bullshit the characters are. Even Jiren decided to train for this. And he trained with Belmont and Topo, as well as Margarita. I don't know how to pronounce her name. They all trained together, and at the end of it, like the entirety of the Universe 11 troopers, they're not very strong, but Dispo, Dispo, Topo, and Jiren, they're a bare minimum God of Destruction level. Jiren is even the strongest of the group, and Topo is right behind him. They all spent so long in the tournament, in the Pyramid of Power, that they had fun. They trained in fucking shit. All of them did. The only one who wasn't fully trained among them really had no point being there at this point, technically. Well, I mean that is like, even if he was bullshit as he was, he couldn't throw hands. And at this point, Hit actually respects Goku and has done nothing but train since what happened. And they fight. Like, the Tournament of Power, every universe targeted Goku. Vegeta, all of them. But in this version, Goku was told, you don't need to fight. Sit down, Goku. As Piccolo, every one of them sit down. Even all having their ultimate form unlocked. Before the Tournament of Power, in High Block Time Chamber. And in the Pyramid of Power inside that. So, yeah. Even in Whis' staff inside of that and all that shit. They just had to get that done, blow up, kick open the doors, and get out of there. And they were really only in there for like a few months, for 2 months. I'd say it's like at most. Because really to them, to people on the outside it was like 10 seconds. To people on the inside it was like few years. Though Piccolo was now strong enough to keep up with all of them in his ultimate power. At this point, when every one of them walked around, they didn't give a fuck. Like, they had zero shits to give. They were all so much stronger than their god of destruction. Hell, 3 of them, actually 6 of them, are as strong as Whis, who is considered the strongest angel behind the Grand Priest. In this version, at least. This is where the funny part happens. Jiren said, "I'm not interfering," and sits down. Though Kale and Caulifla still wanted to fight Goku, they wind up sparring with him, realizing how bullshit outclassed they were. Still wanted to learn all the forms. He teaches them all the way up to Super Saiyan 3. And with Tarble, Vegeta teaches him all the way up to Super Saiyan 3. But in this version, Kale doesn't go with Caulifla and Goku. She went with Brock, the older brother. And they had their fight. That was fun. Then Jiren had to step in to stop both of them. And here's where I'm ending it off, guys. They wound up having it where the only 3 left were Hit, Jiren, and Goku, because everyone else kind of got knocked off through the power of these 3. Through the Time Stopper. Actually, the Time Manipulator, the one above the gods, and the True God, and the True Warrior. Those were the 3 titles, as Goku barely won the fight and exhaustedly collapsed. And the wish was still to revive all the other universes and all that shit. Basically, that happens, and that's all for this What If. That's what if Tarble and Z Broly went with Goku to Earth.